YouTubeverse. I'm John Stanek and welcome to Johnny Radio. I'm so excited to give you my very first transmission, and what better way to do it than with reviewing one of my favorite records of all time, the Beatles' Abbey Road. Absolutely one of the most phenomenal recordings ever made by any band, and it just so happens to be my favorite band of all time, the Beatles. And some of you may be saying, okay, the Beatles, my grandparents think they're great. I think they're probably overrated. Well, if you haven't given them a chance, Abbey Road is the best place to do so. It was actually the first, I'd heard, tons of Beatles songs when I was a kid, but it was the first album experience that I ever had with them, listening front to back. And after I heard it, I was like, not only, just amazed, but left wanting more. And then I just started at the beginning of their catalog and moved forward. I definitely recommend anyone who has not done that to do that and start with Abbey Road, because it is just perfect all the way through. There's very few albums that I give an A+ rating to. Really, it's less than 20, and this is absolutely one of them. A desert island disc, if there ever was one, and it sucks you in from the very first second of Come Together, which everyone knows that song. It's got the great drum hook by Ringo, and just some of the weirdest lyrics ever from Lennon, but his delivery is just iconic, and it's such a great song. And then it goes straight into Something, which is one of the greatest ballads ever written by anyone, and it just so happens to be George Harrison, who was at the top of his game at this point. All Things Must Pass was released a year later. That's a review for another time, but his solo album, Harrison is my personal favorite Beatle, and that's really saying something, because Lennon and McCartney, man, as a team and separately, were just obviously amazing. But Harrison, Something is just, again, one of the best Beatles songs ever, one of the best songs ever, and he put that and Here Comes the Sun on the same album. I mean, incredible output from George. It was just great, and the musical things that he did on this record are just, the guitar solos, everything was just so well thought out. And one of the best things about Abbey Road is they didn't have to do this. I mean, at this point, they had put out Sgt. Pepper, the White Album, Revolver, which a lot of people say, those are their best album. Well, I disagree, and one of those reasons is, they had accomplished so much, they could have just said, we'll just put out Let It Be and leave it there. No, they said, we're the bloody Beatles, and we're going to go out with a bang, And boy, did they, because, I mean, this is just all of them at the peak of their power. George Martin, just a stellar production, and they just all said, we're giving it our best, and we're putting our love and heart and soul into this thing, and you can tell. Just every note rings with that, we're the greatest band in the world, and we're going to show you why. And it goes through the whole album. I mean, Oh Darling is one of McCartney's greatest vocal deliveries. His screaming, and I mean, him and Lennon rival as two of the greatest melodic screamers ever. And oh my gosh, his delivery on that song is just so intense and wonderful. And then Lennon answering right back with I Want You, She's So Heavy. His scream on that song is just such catharsis. And then the song builds, and if you think the Beatles can't rock on par with the Stones or Zeppelin even, that song gets so intense by the end. You're like, you think the world is just ending, and it's this huge build-up, and then segues straight into just the soft, delicate intro of Here Comes the Sun. The thought that they put into this, the order of the songs, It's just brilliant and breathtaking. And the fact that the album, you know, so many albums, even some of the great ones, they front load the album with like the 4 best songs, and then it starts to kind of trail down as far as greatness. Abbey Road is one of those few albums that it actually gets better and better as the album goes, because you flip over this record and then you got, you know, Here Comes the Sun, and then it starts into this medley that is just like, when you hear it the first time and it's over, you're like, did that just happen? Like, how did they even do that? And it's just, it's awesome. It starts with Because, which is one of the most beautiful 3-part harmonies ever recorded to tape. And if you can find the version of just a cappella without the music, I highly recommend you do it, and it'll give you chills, man. I mean, their harmonies were just the best in the business, and this, again, proves why. Going straight into You Never Give Me Your Money, which to me is one of the most underrated Beatles songs. Just such a great melody, and within that song it changes into 3 different songs, and that in itself is a medley. And then it keeps going with Sun King, Me and Mr. Mustard, Polythene Pam, She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, and it's just like one song after the next that perfectly blend, and then it culminates with the, you know, Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight, and the end, where it's just, when you know, it's just repeated listenings keep making this album better and better, especially with the history of it, when you realize this is the last album they ever recorded together, and they, you know, the end of the end, you got Harrison, Lennon, and McCartney just going back and forth, trading off guitar licks, and kind of showing one another up, and then it has, you know, that great ending line, "The love you take is equal to the love you make." Man, it sums up the Beatles' legacy in just such a great, grand gesture that it shows that they love their fans, and, you know, how can you help but not love them back? And then, you know, there's that pause and the little hidden track, Her Majesty, which is just so, you know, it's such classic McCartney, you know, and you don't want it to end, and it does, and it just leaves you wanting more, which is one of the best things an album can do. I could go on and on about this album, and you know, the fact that it changed the way I look at what an album should be, and I hope it does the same for you if you haven't listened to it. If you have listened to it, you probably agree with me on everything I've said, because it's just, you just can't deny it. I don't care even if you hate music, you will love Abbey Road. It's absolutely just one of the best things ever made on the planet Earth, and you need to go listen to it now.